Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. And let's stand and start with the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you do roll call, Addie? You all right?
Okay. Lynn Durant,
Here?
Randy, not.
Absent and
Andrew,
excused.
Linda. Here. Dan,
Dan's not here, he's in Green Bay.
Absent and excused.
John,
Here.
and Park.
Here.
Okay, thank you for that. Any public comment? Anybody like to address the board before we get started with the meeting? Any public comment? Okay, thanks. We need approval then tonight for the consent agenda, which consists of approval of regular meeting minutes, April 2nd, 2025, bills payable in the amount of $202,475.71. We have the Sheriff's Department activity report for March 25. I thought it was kind of fun to put in the Marquette County poster winner for Respect Marquette County this year. And the abbreviated packet for the Solid Waste Authority is also in there. They just met. In fact, they were still meeting when I came in here, so I'll have just a little bit of information on that. We have the March 2025 financial statements, and we have a budget amendment. I probably should read that, eh? Bear with me 1 second. Sandy, you have that up. We need a roll call vote. There we go. Sorry about that. Let me read the abbreviation. Authorization is requested to increase expenditures in the general fund. Expenditure increases for the general fund are due to the NFWF Compo Creek invoices, which is a grant reimbursement, under-calculated benefits during the budget process, additional board review hours and training, increased training in Treasurer's Department, election items purchased, which will also be reimbursed, thanks to Randy with his go-getter on the grants, township office furnace repairs, and master plan updates. The fire fund administration increase is due to bond fees, and the firefighting increase is for under-calculated pension during the budget process. Wastewater fund administration increase is for additional supply purchases. The sewer system salaries overtime and general services increase is due to a frozen, low-pressure force main on Fair Avenue in February. Water fund increase was due to prepaid insurance adjustment. Also requested is an increase in the solid waste fund and contract services, the annual quadrant standard maintenance contract that was not in the original budget. So we need a roll call vote to accept the consent agenda. And a motion to.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
So roll call, Linda?
Do you want me to? Yes.
Was that John or? I didn't even hear. John? Okay, John then?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Lynn's yes, and that's it, and one absent.
There's two.
Two absent. Okay,
I move to approve the regular agenda.
and second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we are going to hold off on our library report because they just met last night. And our new representative is going to work on that report for us. She'll be back for May 7th.
She's here.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
She's just listening.
working on it.
Listening and learning. So let's start with one of our presentations from Lori Hosworth from No Payment on Trail Network. And then we'll have an offshoot of that when she gets finished.
All right, thanks for having me. So I've been asked to kind of give an overview of NTN and what we've been up to. And of course, some of what we've been up to is quite a bit of work in the township this last year. For those of you, I think most of you know who NTN generally is. You know, we're the trail network taking care of a number of the trail systems locally. We're tending to go by NTN now instead of No Payment on Trail Network, just trying to differentiate the organization from the ski marathon and the trail itself. So you're seeing a new logo, seeing NTN as more of our branding going forward to differentiate that a little bit. There's our mission right now. Central Upper Peninsula Michigan was what we had when we had Munising under us up until last year. So the Friends of Valley Spur were also under our organization, and we've now kind of pushed them over to join with the Munising Bay Trail Network. So they're no longer under us. So I think our mission is probably going to be focused a little more on the greater Marquette County area going forward. So, there we go. All right. So under NTN right now, we've got 7 trail systems. Everybody is somewhat familiar with the North Trail, South Trails, Forestville Trails, which have been more traditionally ski trails, but now we're doing a lot more summer use out there out of our trailhead. The Fit Strip we groom in the winter for the city of Marquette. We have the Sockshead Trails that are groomed by a volunteer up on the way to Big Bay, which are primarily used in the winter. They also get a little bit of summer use. We also have the Big Bay Pathway that's also primarily winter use. And the Powell Trails, which is on the Powell Township Recreation Area lands. That's a new trail system within the last couple of years. Purpose-built single track, primarily mountain bike use, but gets a fair amount of hiking and other uses year-round. The other things that we manage, we have a bike park at our South Trailhead. We also have a pump track at the Vandenboom School. We have a little book trail up at Bothwell, and the 906 bicycle playground at Tourist Park, which is a little bit of kind of a learning skills area for the kids. And we've also started to build out a little bit of a skills zone out at our Forestville Trailhead, which also has some skills features for kids to learn on. Kids and adults, I should say big kids too. There's a lot of those out there. So let's see, the other things that are under us, we have, like I said, these are the properties that are under the control of NTN through ownership or permanent easement. So we have 15 acres at the Forestville Trailhead. And it's not just a trailhead, it's also a campground in the summer. So we have a 15 primitive campsites out there. So basically they have a fire ring and picnic tables. And they use the vault toilets that are part of our facility up there. Up at the 550 Trailhead, we now have roughly 358 acres. That was gifted to us. All but 40 acres of that was gifted to us in the last couple of years. The plan up there is hopefully in the future to be able to groom trails a little later in the season. So we're starting to lose that snow earlier in the season. Maybe not this year, and flexible. We've got a little bit of strategic plan up there to try to protect a little bit of acreage because we do typically have more reliable snow up there. It also is where the No Payment on Ski Marathon Trail goes through on a year when we have the No Payment on Ski Marathon. So a little bit of uncertainty up there. And then we have some permanent easement on roughly 15 kilometers of the ski trail from 550 in. And there's also a section of the Ore to Short route that also has an easement protection coming off of the 550. And then in the last few years, it's probably been 5 years now, time goes really quick, we own roughly 25 acres at the South Trailhead. But unfortunately it has a pipeline going through it and lots of rock, but we've been able to utilize it for the trailhead and expand that a little bit and also build a bike park on it. So that's been a really good project for us. Across these networks, it's roughly 150 miles of trail. We work with over 40 landowners. So we've got a lot of agreements to manage. There's probably roughly another 10 that we work with for the events themselves. So the ski marathon uses some land that we don't typically have trails on for year-round use. The events that are hosted under NTN, I think a lot of times people see events are happening on our trails. Some of them are events that are fundraisers specifically for us, but there's a lot of events that happen that are run by different organizations. They might be fundraisers, they might be other types of programs and events, but these are the ones that are owned by NTN and run by NTN, the A Winter Enduro, which is a mountain bike event, the Honey Bear Classic, which is a ski, more of a casual ski event up in Big Bay. The ski marathon, of course, on a good year. It goes from Ishpeming all the way into Marquette. We have the Big Bay Relay, the fundraiser. That one is primarily a fundraiser for the trails up in Big Bay. They've kind of taken over that event, but that's a long-running event in the area. Market Trails Fest has grown into our largest fundraiser that attracts roughly 1,000 participants each year now, and it is a good fundraiser for our organization and really helps expose the trails to a lot of people. It has running and mountain biking events throughout the weekend. Marquette 50 Trail Marathon, that goes over a Forestville trailhead and actually uses quite a bit of the trails out in Harlow and Little Crest Isle. Those are not trails that we manage, so we partner with the other organizations out there for that event. And this white text underneath is a big long running list of some of the other things that we manage and coordinate with across our network. As you can see, it's a long list of events that we need to communicate with, make sure the landowners are okay with events running on their lands. There's a lot of programs. We have the Superior Land Ski Club running almost all of their weekends out of Forestville this year because of kind of inconsistent grooming out of the Blueberry Trail system. So we've got kids programs running. The NMU ski team pretty much trained out of our facility for most of their winter this year. Of course, the 906 youth programs as well as the events and the running series. And we do some high school ski races that are organized out of our Forestville trailhead. So there's a lot of things happening across the trail throughout the year. Again, some are our events, some are run by other organizations, but we have to do a lot of coordination to try to make sure things are not interfering with each other, and we always have a goal of making sure the community still has access to trails when any one event is going on. It's hard when events go across all the trail systems to direct people where they can recreate safely without a race going on, but that is what we have to manage on a monthly basis. And here's how we do it. We've got a 12-member board of directors currently, volunteers of course. We right now have 3 full-time staff. I've expanded our staff a little bit. We focused on the maintenance side of things. So we now have a facilities manager, but we're a nonprofit, so we also do a lot of everything. Doug Penelaw manages our facilities, also grooms, also repairs all of our equipment, which is a really big deal with how much equipment we need for maintaining and grooming trails. We have Jeremiah Johnston that we hired last year, and his primary role is trail building. If we contract out a build for a mile of trail, it can be anywhere from $35,000 to $70,000 or $80,000 a mile. So by employing somebody under us, it can be a cost savings for us, allowing us to do a lot more and focus him on not only building trail, also maintenance and helping with winter grooming operations too. Our third person is me, coordinating all of the things, also grooming, also digging, cleaning bathrooms, all the things, nonprofit, other duties as assigned, I like to say, to everybody. And then we have 3 to 5 seasonal and temporary staff that help us out throughout the year. We do have a full-time groomer for Forestville. That is our primary trail system that people go to in the winter. So that one we're really focused on making sure we deliver a good product over there. And we have 1,700 member supporters. So while the trails are no charge to use, this is how we support what we do. Members bring in roughly, a regular year, 20 to 25% of our budget is the memberships that people pay. We have $95 for an individual, $180 for a family, and we have higher levels of support, which fortunately we have a lot of people that support us at quite a bit higher level, knowing how important these facilities are. So that's been really helpful for us, and that's been an adjustment that we made a few years ago to simplify things. So when people are a member of the organization, they're supporting the mission and all of what we do. And we're fortunate to have a really good community backing us here. And of course, volunteers. You know, we heavily rely on volunteers at all times, from spring cleanup on the trails to organizing events to making sure we have support for special fundraising campaigns. The other way we bring in revenue, we have business partners, so it's just a way for local businesses to support at different levels. They get their logos put up on our website and at the trailhead, so they get a little bit of trade back, some recognition, and they know they're supporting us. We also have businesses that will volunteer to do a work day in partnership with us. They'll bring in their employees out and we'll organize a work day around their employees. And that's been a really fun thing to do, and it gets them really connected with the trails. We get some funding support from NMU, and in exchange we have rental equipment available for all their students at the Forestville. They can rent skis, snowshoes, fat bikes all winter long. And then it's, miscellaneous donations. We get some campground revenue, we sell some merchandise here and there at events, and of course we do special campaigns, and we get occasional grants. It's pretty minimal on the grant funding side of things. I'd like to find some more time to write some grants, but we're busy doing all the other things. So that brings us to, I wanted to go over a few highlights from this last year. If anybody's been by our 553 trailhead over the last couple of years, it was torn up for quite a while last summer. We've been working on trying to add vault toilets, expand parking, make it more organized out there for everybody, and upgrade the kiosk. It's taken us 3 years to get that done for a number of reasons. Some obstacles at the city, possibly.
No.
But we got it done. We now have a nice facility out there that welcomes our locals as well as visitors to the area. The other exciting project from last year was some new trails, the Carp River Falls and the Raging River Trail build last year. We were able to build the Carp River Falls Trail, which is what this picture is. It opened up this beautiful waterfall that a lot of people haven't been able to see before. And if you haven't seen it, we can give you some directions to get out there. But it's amazing. We built this viewing area there that groups are able to stop at and enjoy. And then the Raging River is a roughly 3-mile trail. That was able to happen because the Raging River Campground put a bridge in on the other side of that system. That's what made the build for this trail on Heartwood property on the south side of the Carp River viable last year. So we did a fundraising campaign with a matching grant through Medic, and we got that built last year. So between those two, roughly 4 new miles of trail, but really spectacular miles of trail following the river and crossing the river. Really encourage people to get out there to enjoy that. We haven't done a ribbon cutting on that one yet. Maybe sometime this summer we need to install some benches as recognition for people that donated to the project, and we want to get that wrapped up before we do that. We've been adding some single track up in Forestville. The NICA team from MCIC helped us quite a bit with that. And that's making that area a little bit more of an attraction for people to go up and start their rides from and do some loops just right out of the trailhead there. And we had to do some reroutes and rebuilds last year. The Able medical device took away a bit of access, so we needed to rebuild and reroute some trails at the South Trailhead, or the South Trail area there. So what we did, we also scooped up a few trails that were dropping to 553 to try to push all of the traffic to one crossing. So we combined that with some safety improvements that hopefully will help isolate some of the bicycle crossing and foot crossing in not a great area, but the best crossing that we have visibility-wise. Hopefully people will get to enjoy those reroutes this year. We did some repairs up on BLP rocks. You know, we had some flooding, not last year, the year before. We were kind of waiting to see if we were going to have problems again this year. We still have a little bit more work to do to improve those bridges, but that was a late season project last year for us. And then we also had to work around a private property that we were concerned about access for the No Cayman Ski Marathon. So we built roughly 3/4 mile of ski trail right before winter, and then we didn't get to use it because the race didn't happen. But we're all set for next year, and we were able to get off of a private property west of the 510 out there. So we now have some a lot more control over that portion of the race course. We received a grant to do a solar installation at Forestville. So now our Forestville facility is running solar, just like you guys are out here. We had some, you know,
Panels, yeah.
inspiration by driving by here. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we were able to facilitate Valley Spur partnering up with Munising Bay Trail Network to allow them to be a little more focused locally. The other thing that happened last year, and this was a big project funded by Eagle Mine, putting together a strategic plan for all the trails in Marquette County to really see what's at risk, where some of the needs are. And as part of that, there was an economic study completed. It was really focused on some of the more major trail systems, the NTN, the Ramba, the Little Presque Isle area, IOHT trail. And what that report showed was there's $41.5 million in annual economic output because of the trails in Marquette County. That is a number we haven't had before, and they said that's a conservative number. So I think people hopefully will start recognizing that the trails do have a value, and a value to not only just individuals using the trails, but it's starting to branch out throughout the community. And that's supporting 395 jobs. So it's really a big deal what's happening on the ground. It's delivering on a much larger level. We're starting to be able to see more of the data as part of this. Travel Marquette has invested in some geofencing data, and if people aren't familiar with it, it's a little bit creepy, but they're tracking your cell phones and they're aggregating that data, so we can now see numbers of people who are coming into the trailheads, where they're going, where they're coming from, and Travel Marquette is using that data quite a bit in their planning purposes. Unfortunately, they're sharing it with us. I just did a screenshot out of one of the reports that they did. I can share the larger report. I don't know, Lynn, if you have that full report or not.
I have Susan's, yeah. She was here
Okay.
last meeting.
Okay, perfect. So you've heard a little bit about this, but you can see the large amount of trail visits that we're seeing at the different trail systems. It's pretty significant. I'm going to meet up with them, though. This really is only focused on 6 months, which is the high tourism season. I want to see our other months, you know, what's happening in the other months and where that traffic is coming from. That brings us to the Township Trailhead Project. Yeah, there it is, there it is. Hopefully everyone's maybe wandered out to the site. I think Carl provided a lift out there for us, if I'm correct. This one was super exciting, and it fell into place thanks to a number of people, including you guys here at the township. We had kind of set it aside thinking, we'll poke away at it as funding comes available. And Mike Niger happened to wander in my office one day and said, hey, I'd like to support a project. What do you guys have? And I went, I threw a couple things at him, and I was like, wait a second, what about this pavilion? He had funded the pavilion at the South Trailhead off of 553. So he wanted to do something in memory of his mom. That one's named after his dad, so this pavilion he donated to so we could do that. And I knew that wasn't going to get it done, but it was a big start towards funding that project. So that brought us to putting a presentation together for the NMU Construction Management class. And they may or may not have known what they were getting into. Three of them are here. Don't worry, the other two are still, they're still good.
It's fine.
Yeah, and, you know, super exciting. You know, the township stepped up to help with the concrete portion of the project. We were able to stick build up, put some storage there for our equipment. When I mentioned the snow levels changing, that's a big deal for how we manage our systems. Right now, we store our equipment for winter grooming on that side way down by the lake, in an old garage off of the Mount Marquette Road there. And when there's not snow down there, it makes it really difficult for us to get up to the township where there is snow. So we're really excited to have that garage space and to have this community space available for everybody to utilize out there. I just thought I'd share a few pictures. We are going to do a video once we get the rest of the pieces complete, but pretty exciting to see it from that dirt patch to what we have out there now. There it is. We still have a little bit to do. NTN will be finishing the underside of the pavilion, and we're going to put some electrical in there, build some picnic tables, those types of things, and the township is working on the parking lot, of course. But lots of people involved. You know, our five students from NMU took on a really big project, and I think they learned a lot. They may be quite a bit older after 6 months, but it really couldn't have happened without a number of people stepping up, companies stepping up, providing equipment, providing the support. This is a list we're working on, making sure we recognize everybody, but you can see there a lot of people involved at all levels. And we did an additional fundraising campaign when we knew it was going to be a little short, and I'm excited. I kind of threw some concepts at them, and they delivered on a pavilion that I think is really stunning and a treasure for this community for many years. Finally, what's next? We've been doing quite a bit of walking around out there on the township and the Heartwood city property to look at how we're going to connect this trailhead and make that more of a destination. What we're looking at doing is we have room up on the hillside to build out some little loop skilled areas for the kids. There's some really neat rock up in there that we walked around in the snow the other day. We're hoping to put an additional loop, that's what that blue line is, and get people off of the well road as much as possible. So that will be a new section of single track that'll connect up to what we call Freak of Nature Trail. If you're a trail user, you know which one that is because it's a really fun, swoopy trail. And the other thing we want to do is create a foot traffic only loop on the east side of the well road. That's what that yellow loop is on the map there with everybody's support. Of course, we have to go to the city too to get permissions, but we're hoping that will help with a bit of the conflict out there and give the people on foot some space where they don't have to worry about bikes coming up fast, and their dogs on leash will appreciate that too. So that's what I have for you. Welcome to answer any questions if anybody has any, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Any questions for Lori?
Lori, do you mind going back to the slide with all of the names? Yeah, if you can leave that up there while we do the next part.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thanks. That's great.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if this is even on.
Should be. Sounds like it.
Now it is. Okay. I think Lori probably even understated a little bit the effort that these three and their two other classmates went through in the last school year to get that project done. Pretty amazing, and if you look at the list of people that helped, that's a result of their resourcefulness. So you don't get it done with just 5 college students. They have to use their heads to use every resource available to get something of this magnitude done in one school year. Congratulations, guys, it's amazing. Okay, so 2 of them are not here tonight, and that would be Maddie and Dan. But Maddie, Marcus, Jack, Dan, and Moses, we have resolutions from the Township Board, signed by Supervisor Durant and myself. I'm not on the board, but Lynn asked me to sign 2. Resolution recognizing public service of Maddie, Marcus, Jack, Dan, and Moses as a construction management student at NMU. Whereas more than half of Michigan's residents reside in a township. We are the Charter Township of Marquette. And whereas township government provides the greatest opportunity for residents to shape, protect, and support the character of their communities. And whereas Maddie, Marcus, Jack, Dan, and Moses have selflessly stepped forward to serve Marquette Township in the construction of a pavilion for township residents and visitors. Whereas the Marquette Township residents and Marquette Charter Township Board of Trustees have greatly benefited from their dedication and participation. Therefore, be it resolved that the Marquette Charter Township Board of Trustees express their grateful appreciation for the dedicated service of these 5 NMU students. Thank you very much. So this is for Maddie. And I'm guessing, I can't remember how I ordered the first and last name. Must be last since Maddie was first. Marcus. Thank you, sir. You must be next. Thank you, Jack. That'll be you, Moses. Thanks, and this one's for Dan.
All right.
I'm sure you guys will get it.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
John's been out there so much, helping and advising and writing checks and.
I've just been standing there in awe.
So I thought it'd probably be good that you got out.
Thank you.
I got out there once and got to see the boom. You know, how you're trying to get the one beam in and, I was gonna say C-valve, but that would be right. You were trying to get it in there and stretching and pounding. I don't know how you did it, but you did. It was great. You had to take it back out, put it back in. It was quite an effort. And quite a few of our people, our community members donated, right? They donated equipment use and it was amazing.
Volunteered towards the fundraising portion through NTN, correct? Yep.
That's great.
If I can just add one more thing, most of you remember the way this all went down last fall. Lori and Jer, who they just hired last year, and myself, we went over to Northern and basically begged them for their assistance on this project.
Oh, I thought they volunteered.
I would say that's correct, right? And I think we really walked out of there hoping for a facility design. They agreed to not only design it, but build it. And the evidence is right before you on the screen. It is a facility that I think we should all be very proud of. They would have probably been done before the end of last calendar year if those big wooden pieces you see on top were easier to get. That was a 2-month delay, maybe more.
Yeah, about there. Yeah.
And it's pretty incredible. I can't wait to see what it looks like when all of the final touches that NTN is doing to it will be completed a little bit later this year. And then, of course, projects like this, the pavilion is usually one of the last elements. This time it's the first. And it's because those 3 and their 2 classmates took on a mighty big elephant and just bit it off one bite at a time, and it's pretty impressive. We will build that parking lot this year. It will have at least 30 parking spaces. So again, it's not huge, but we don't want to make it so big that we have our next dangerous intersection in the township too. So this is a manageable size to start. If we can figure out access long-term, maybe we can expand it a little bit over time. And it should be a pretty amazing destination.
And then maybe, Lori, when you do the name plaque for thanking everybody, their 5 names are bigger.
Yeah.
Or are they at all?
No, we're going to be working on signage for that back wall. You can't see it in the picture here. We had the back wall broken up with some cedar to give it some depth and definition, and that's really where we'll have the recognitions and the map for the trails and everything. It's just another, got to add that to the list of to-dos. Yeah, we want to get everything finished up, get the parking lot there, and hopefully have a nice open house ribbon cutting at some point and invite the community out to enjoy that space. I'm pretty excited for it.
May I also introduce the boss lady, Maddie Bell?
You missed all the praise.
That's okay.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, are we good? Okay, thanks again. Okay, let's move and shift a little bit to our kids of the community. Marquette Area Public Schools, Zach Sedgwick has his report.
Good evening, Mr. Kangas. You got me a little bit paranoid. Is this on? Okay. I've got a loud voice. You'd be able to hear me, but I don't know if your
There's a mic actually right above you, so
cameras
that's
and
why I
sound
wasn't
will pick it
worried.
up. That's a hard act to follow. You know, as the superintendent, I've long desired outdoor learning spaces. We've got a good start, but if you're ever looking for additional projects, and pavilions is on the list if that's your specialty. So I think we can help you out, or at least maybe you can help us out. But yes, thank you for having me back, board of trustees. Zach Sedgwick, Marquette Area Public Schools. I'm here for, I guess, what's become an annual report. And there's a lot more content in these slides than I'll be able to get into with any level of detail. It'll be a 20,000 foot overview. And there will be some things that I've covered in the past that'll come in the form of an update because I've discussed what's coming, now it's happened, and then it's, you know, forecasting what's coming next. So here we go. Focus for us is always student achievement. This is our strategic plan. We have 6 groups. You see the district mission in the middle, exemplary staff, rigorous curriculum. Ultimately, the focus is on kids, on academic achievement. Especially since COVID, we've really branched into a focus on social emotional learning more than even in the past. But again, all 6 of these groups, student achievement, district wellness, that's staff and students, professional development, community relations, business finance, facilities, and learning environment, are all targeting that same goal, which is the reasoning for the structure of this slide. I won't get into detail, but when you hear me talk about things like MTSS is the mechanism we're really using for addressing student achievement. And MTSS essentially is a systematic approach to addressing something so complex as student achievement. These 6 groups are all players. And MTSS is it's not only systematic, it's research-based, it's best practice in education, and it is again, the mechanism or the vehicle that drives all of these groups and all of what we do at Marquette Area Public Schools. And I think you'll see some improvement based on the rest of this presentation. I like to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm sure many of you have seen this. When you're talking about student achievement, it is not possible for kids to be successful when their basic needs are not met. Psychological needs, physiological needs, psychological needs, safety, security, belonging, etc. I think that's just essentially common sense for us as adults. But when you're designing a program for a public school district, it really does need to be your focus as you try to leverage a lot of different moving parts. I use the acronym SIP, that's School Improvement Plan, in educational circles, but then I took a little bit of used a little bit of a play on words and made it Safety Infrastructure Programming, which is essentially the structure of this presentation. Safety Infrastructure Programming. I'm really going to highlight infrastructure, and I think you'll hear that shortly. But first, safety. Covered some of this in the past. These are all things that have happened and are happening. And I'm not one that reads slides to people, and you're going to probably have a hard time keeping up with the slides if you're looking at them as you're hearing me talk. But all of the points on this particular slide have happened. Outside doors with keyless entry that are electronically controlled, PA systems that have greatly improved our communication, cameras, radio system upgrade is a significant improvement, critical incident maps, which is technology from the special forces, and some best practice in education, and a variety of other improvements. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. I just put a simple old versus new slide up here. I talked about technology from the special forces. That's what you're seeing. Old is what we used to have, and new is what we have now. And just to give you an example of how important this feature is, we recently did a district-wide drill at Bothwell Middle School. Those of you that are parents probably heard from me about that drill. So this drill at Bothwell, we simulated an event where there was something very serious at Bothwell, and then we put that building in Superior Hills due to proximity and lockdown, the rest of the buildings in secure mode. Meanwhile, I was in what we would call incident command with chief of police, chief of fire, with these maps for Bothwell in that scenario, along with radios, camera systems being monitored by Northern, and a variety of other features, including a communication tool where I can direct thousands of people with my cell phone because of our technology, and we were able to simulate something that obviously we hope never happens, but it was very powerful to use these technologies and see them in action. This is just an example of one of those new technologies. PA systems, similarly, if you've seen the old PA systems with the horns and the speakers, the technology is far different now. We have ability to present messages on these boards, different strobe lights, and then there's technologies that sync with cameras and emergency apps, tools that law enforcement has access to. In that district-wide drill, for example, we were actually able to geofence where the target was, use the maps to then direct law enforcement to where those folks needed to go in the building to respond. Here's just I guess an infographic of the radio system. Our radio system used to be very antiquated. Huge shout out to Eric Smith, NMU, for helping us improve that system. We have a tower on Mount Menard. Now I can talk to people in Scandia and Big Bay. Before we had to basically, if you weren't within eyeshot, you weren't getting a very good signal. It's that much different. We have now a digital network, much more robust than it was before. Okay, infrastructure. Again, 20,000 foot overview. You've heard me talk about asset management plans in the past. We have over 750,000 square feet at MAPS. Our newest buildings are 30 years old. We are severely outdated. If you've walked our hallways, it's just the reality. Our facilities are outdated. We've done a really nice job with the revenue sources that we have, but it's not enough. So we've had our own internal audits. We work with 2 different architectural engineering firms. And then we recently had a statewide infrastructure study done. The state told us we have $100 million worth of infrastructure needs. That's not new buildings, that's nothing fancy, no bells and whistles. This is just basic brick and mortar type improvements to keep those buildings functional. And they said $100 million. Well, what are we supposed to do with $100 million? So I got a meeting coming up with some of our lawmakers to ask them that very question. Because I'm wondering what to do, and the board recently directed me to look at some pathways forward, and that's what I'm currently doing. And I'm planting seeds now. At a future date, you'll probably hear a little bit more specifics from me. I don't want to read again all the projects, but on the left you see projects that are in the works. You might have heard about the planetarium, playground constructions, our college career readiness center, which is your neck of the woods, at Vandenboom. That's our alternative school, where we're actually upgrading the shop space, which is going to be CTE certified, and then really working on the front door, if you will, the curbside appeal of that building, which if you've been at that building, you know it needs some love. And the rest of it, you probably heard me talk about in the past, but recent projects on your right, let me just summarize it this way. Over $2 million worth of projects, closer to 3, and you'll see later with about a $1.3 million revenue source in the sinking fund. Here's just some pictures of some projects. Thank you to the community for supporting the sinking fund. Here's just an idea of what that money has paid for. Science labs were about $1.3 million. That again is about what we get in the sinking fund. So that was wrapped up in the science labs, but they are much improved, and our science teachers and students are very grateful. Here's a little taste of some other projects. Outdoor learning spaces or playgrounds is what's being highlighted here, along with athletics. You'll see the new bleachers in the bottom right corner. More miscellaneous projects. Again, due to the nature of time, I will say that I won't say a lot, but the one on the bottom left, let me tell you, elevators are expensive. I will just highlight that if you ever try to upgrade an elevator. On the bottom right, instead of replacing our boilers, which are about $1 million to replace, we retrofitted them with some new technology, and we're able to do that for about $100,000. That's that red unit on the bottom right, where you weren't replacing the massive structure, you're just replacing the key components that really cause it to function. Again, parking lots, doors, which are to address safety, communication devices such as the marquee at Bothwell, the PA systems. Drink, you might have heard of Filter First. We're improving our drinking water, putting in filtered water stations. We've already done a significant number of them. We're doing more boilers. On the bottom left is our auxiliary gym, and of course, ADA accessibility. What could be done? Here's a little bit of taste. These are pictures that we've taken of some of the current facilities. I like to talk about it in terms of academics, the arts and athletics, the three overarching themes in education that we work on. And again, you got a little taste of all three of those areas. On the left are projects that are in the works, happening with the current funding that we have available. They're on our asset management plans, our long-term plans. But we are covering a lot of different areas, and again, 750,000 square feet of buildings, infrastructure, and there's a lot of need there. Here's a visual for you. That's just a taste of this summer. $2.73 million as of the making of this slide, probably closer to $3 million since then, just because it's always evolving. There's always more projects with a $1.3 million a year sinking fund. We do backfill as much as we can with grant dollars and whatever is extra in our capital projects fund. So we try to use our capital projects fund to make up the difference. And right now we have enough that we can do that in the short term, but long term it's not sustainable. Programming, I would love to talk about programming. I'm an educator. I can throw so many acronyms at you that you will have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to. But there's just a lot of different systems that we put in place. It's all part of MTSS. That stands for multi-tiered systems of support. It really is just a systematic approach to improving student achievement. I do want to highlight the social emotional supports, because I'll just give you a taste. We used to have really one social worker district-wide. Now we have 6. I have 2 district-wide social workers. We partner with the health department for a third one. Actually, third and fourth one, we have a health department social worker at the high school and middle school, so that makes 4. And we have 2 31N workers, which are grant funded through Marisa. That makes 6 that are working with our kids. And these kids are coming with significant needs. And since COVID, I've been in this business for 20 years. It's quite unique, and it's pronounced. It's very much paramount in, I think, our ability to be successful, our kids' ability to be successful moving forward, is meeting those basic needs that I talked about with Maslow's hierarchy. And I think we're doing that through our social emotional learning supports. I mentioned counselors, social workers, behavior coaches, social emotional learning program at every level. Above is more academic focused, and we have a lot of great systems in place, but I'll save those for another presentation. Same here, we're piloting a GSRP program in our JK, which will help us get additional funding for those youngest learners, which is always key. Having been a former elementary principal, I can tell you those formative years are essential. And you'll see a lot of those resources that are listed there are all targeting this, many of them are targeting those early learners, because we know that that's going to pay dividends for many years to come. Instructional coaches, I will say, this does work. Instructional coaches is one of the coolest things I've ever been able to implement as an educator. These folks come into our schools, they work with our teachers, they work with our kids, all of our staff, to really raise the bar, use a data-driven approach to making decisions and improving instructional practices, and we're seeing the dividends in student achievement. all the time. Here's our 5-year plan on professional development. We have already been through the first 3 years. Next year is social emotional behavior. This year, PBIS stands for positive behavior intervention and support. Obviously key at all levels, especially in the middle school, it's been a focus. Social emotional behavioral learning next year, and then we're going to really wrap up MTSS the year after with a fidelity check and make sure that we're making the progress that we hope to. Okay, so one of the things you may notice, if you haven't already, you go to www.mapsnet.org. It's going to have a much different look. There's now an app you can download. We're really modernizing our technologies and our communication platform, our digital footprint, and I think it's much more effective in getting a message across, and you can get the information you want much more quickly, whether it be lunch menus or athletic schedules, extracurricular events, etc. I think you'll appreciate that improvement. This is a little video the kids did to exemplify some of what we're doing with communications. I'm going to try clicking the down button and see if that plays, but I might need you to hit play. Yeah. If you could
Randy's gonna do it.
click on
I'll
that.
get it going, Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Randy.
Is that Angel I told you
Yeah, that's
about?
all.
The kids made this, so I thought you guys would like to see something the kids did.
Welcome to Marquette Area Public Schools, located in the heart of one of the most breathtaking regions in the country, Marquette, Michigan, along the shores of Lake Superior and the beautiful Upper Peninsula. In Marquette, we enjoy the best of both worlds, the energy of a larger community with the warmth and connection of a small town. Here, we truly look out for one another, and that spirit of support and care is fueled by every student, staff member, and family. My name is Zach Cedric, and I have the honor of serving as superintendent of Marquette Area Public Schools. Over the past 20 years in this district, I've witnessed firsthand how MAPS prioritizes not only academic excellence, but also the social and emotional well-being of our students. I am privileged to work alongside so many dedicated and talented professionals. Educating our students is truly a noble endeavor, and I am so proud of our school district. Some of my most cherished moments have been watching our students succeed, whether in the classroom, on the stage, in the lab, on the athletic field, or in the many curricular and extracurricular activities available to them. The joy, triumph, and celebrations of our students inspire me every day. Our district has shown remarkable resilience, especially in the wake of the pandemic. We face challenges head-on, emerging stronger, more united, and more committed than ever to our students. The future is bright, and I could not be proud of our students, staff, and community. At MAPS, our mission is clear. With an exemplary staff and a rigorous curriculum, we strive to maximize the academic potential of every child. We believe that every student deserves the best possible education, and our dedicated staff works tirelessly to provide it, fostering academic excellence, resilience, empathy, and the skills needed to navigate life's challenges. Serving approximately 3,200 students across 2 high schools, 1 middle school, and 4 elementary schools, we are committed to creating an environment where academic growth and emotional well-being go hand in hand. We recognize that a student's well-being is just as important as their academic success, and we take pride in offering a safe, supportive, and inclusive learning community. Through it all, one thing remains clear. Marquette Area Public Schools is by far the best district I have had the privilege to be part of. From academics to athletics and the arts, we offer students a well-rounded education that inspires, challenges, and supports them every step of the way, emotionally, socially, and academically.
So you can go to our website and see examples of these more examples of the hype videos that the kids created for the different buildings. This is not my slide, by the way, so I don't know what this is. You might have to go back
Maybe
down
it's
to
to
the
close
Chrome
it.
button to get my presentation. But I think this is their district hype video website. Yeah. So yeah, www.mapsnet.org if you want to see more of those hype videos. Kids are doing a great job. It's really a focal area for some of our high school kids. Here, just the colors. I mean, you don't have to look at the numbers. We only have time to think colors. In my time, we used to celebrate yellow and green. We've never seen blue. Blue is as best as you could hope for improvement, and you're seeing that in math and in some cases in reading, but here mostly in math. Indicators of success of some of the things we're doing. Again, another metric, these acronyms may not mean a lot, but RIT is an assessment you use through the NWA assessment where you see growth. If you go from 22-23 to 23-24, this is a compilation of math and reading improvements, gains that we haven't seen, at least I haven't seen in my time in education. More on the NWA, this is another metric that talks about math and reading. In the green on the left here, it's hard to see with the laser because it's green, the 71st percentile on the top, and then that was math, and then on the bottom, the 63rd percentile in reading. We call this, oh geez, here we go. We call this a heat map. The heat map, the darker the color, the better the improvement. This is M-STEP and PSAT, so these are your older kids, middle school and high school kids. On the left, again, is reading. On the right is math, I believe. I might have got those mixed up. It doesn't matter, but you can see that based on that heat map, it goes district, ISD, and then state. So you want to go from left to right. And we're the leftmost in each of these columns. You have 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade, moving from left to right. Again, seeing those darker colors, all you need to know at this point is that's a good thing. A little bit on SAT scores. On the left, 23, on the 2023, on the right, 2024. What you want to see is improvement in the light blue. That's proficient and advanced. This is again is a combination of math and reading. Go from 68.8 percentile to 74.7 percentile. That's a significant, as a former statistics teacher, significant is a key term. A significant increase for our 11th grade students. A little bit, this is a report we get from what we call My School Data. It shows proficiency for students that are English language learners or entering, I should say, 3rd grade, SAT scores, dropout rates, attendance rates, and all of these metrics, again, you look at prior versus current, are trending in the right direction. It also looks at our fund balance, some of our fiscal responsibility is highlighted there, which I think is a strength for MAPS. Attendance rates. Tried to go all the way back to when I started, which is when we were still in the middle of COVID, and our attendance rates really were suffering for a variety of factors, for obvious reasons, I'm sure, to you. And you can see we're again trending in the right direction. Oftentimes above 90% for attendance rates, which with 3,200 students is pretty notable. I really need to get used to hitting down instead of up. Some pictures, I won't spend time looking at pictures, but you can see plenty if you go to our social media pages. Okay, I wanted to get to this Q&A. You guys sent me some questions in advance. I don't know who is responsible for what questions, so I'm going to try to cover some of these on the front end here because Mr. Ann sent me some in advance. So cell phone use is a big topic. I know the governor has been really advocating for restrictions to cell phone use. We already are there. The reality is our high school and middle school already greatly restrict cell phone use. I think we all know the dangers of cell phone use, the negative impact on learning, not to mention the social emotional aspects of cell phone use or too much cell phone use. And we've really curtailed that. So I think we're ahead of the game on that. Staffing update, we recently negotiated contracts, 3-year contracts, and especially for our hourly workers, we made significant increases in their pay. We've been able to recruit much more effectively, and we have a far less staff openings than we did previously, and that's made a huge difference. So that's a positive growth, a positive report. I think I've already mentioned social emotional learning. We have a variety of surveys. These are again questions from your board. One of the questions was about surveying our kids. We have a variety of metrics that we're using, and we're piloting some new ones. Everything from a daily check-in to a suicide screener, where we can make sure we identify kids that are greatly at risk because of whatever's going on in their lives. And I mentioned a little bit about mental health already with the social workers. That's comprehensive. We have full-time elementary counselors. That's new. I mentioned the social workers. We have a couple of school psychologists, and we're implementing programming at all levels to address those needs. Safety, I think I probably hit safety already pretty hard. I'm actually going to stop here because I have a whole nother presentation on data from countywide survey that addresses some of the trends that I've already talked about here, but maybe for another session I can share a little bit more of that information. But we do have some great data to again indicate we're trending in the right direction for kids on some risk factors, whether it be drug use, dropout rates, their feeling of belongingness, and their overall attitude about school. And that comes from the Botven CAC survey. And that's not my expertise, but I know the people that do have that expertise if you want more information. Okay?
That sounds great.
All right. I don't know if I was anywhere near 15 minutes. That was my goal. But that was probably an hour-long presentation. I tried to drill it down to 15 minutes. So is there anything else that I can, provide? Any other information? Questions?
Okay,
Thank you for having me.
thanks, appreciate that. Lots of good information. How many of our residents have kids at school, right? All over the country, all over the county. Well, it's good information, and they can pick this up on Zoom and watch that anytime they want. Okay, fire department report. Wake up, chief. Come on.
These guys are tough to follow. I will be brief. There's not too much excitingness going on at the fire service right now. I will briefly talk about training and a few things I normally do every month. We did have the DNR come in last month, like I said, after last year's wildland fires that we had quite a few of in the township. And they just gave our new members and some of us older guys an overview of what they expect from us and how that we can stay safe, and communications, which is always a big thing. And especially in the fire service, we get so many different agencies coming in, and the fire service is known to like to talk on radios. So we've narrowed that down pretty good with them anyway. This month, because of the wildland season approaching us, we will be doing some mutual aid with some wildland water supply. And then in May, we're going to be doing some structural water land supply. We're going to get together with all of our neighboring townships, Powell, Negaunee Township, Negaunee City, and Chocolate Township. And we're going to do a little scenario. We're planning up on 550 in the middle of May. And that'll be a first time. It's something a little different we want to try. So they're using a different system downstate, and they've talked us into it, and we're going to give it a try. And we think it's going to be pretty effective up here as well. You know, I put in my report meetings usually every month, the meetings that we attend, and I probably, well, this month I see I only put in one. But I will tell you, we do the Pigs in Heat, Marquette County Firefighters Associations, med control meetings. These are meetings that we attend monthly or bi-monthly. Those are the ones that the membership and we attend. And there's obviously many more, but AFG grants. I got a feeling we can take that one off the list. I don't believe we're going to be getting any federal assistance this year. Not on the list though. I was busy last week. Was Eagle and Semco. Those were applied for. The old Apparel 2177. It's not sold yet. It is on the Wisconsin Surplus Auction. It comes off the auction tomorrow. So if anybody's interested, you got like 15 hours left. We're hopeful. We'll see what happens. One other item, pleasant surprise. Bill Nordine, I guess he's the vice chair of the county commission, and he's also a firefighter in Forsyth. Well, Marquette Township for the past 15 to 20 years has been fit testing everybody in the county. We do this, actually Chief Sims had purchased the fit tester approximately 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, and the machine is 15 to 20 years old. And Bill Nordine happened to be in last week, and he wanted to be fit tested because he couldn't make it at the meeting night. So he happened to come in yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, and came in to get fit tested, and the machine wouldn't work. And we had been having issues with the machine over the past couple of months, and we knew it, and it's been on our radar, and we've been looking at them. And Bill, he sat there patiently with us for about a half hours. We tried filters, readjusting things, and we couldn't get it to work. And he said, as he was walking out the door, he said, why don't you send me a quote for what one of those cost? And actually, Assistant Chief Gregory did send him a quote right away, and then they had a board meeting last night. And Bill Nordine made a motion to approve the purchase of an approximately $12,000 fit tester. Marquette Township, the county's purchasing it, and Marquette Township will maybe, I guess, own it. I don't want to use the wrong words, but we will supply anybody in the county with fit testing, as we've done for the past 15 to 20 years.
So describe to them the breathing apparatus.
Yeah, the fit tester, it's an NFPA requirement about 15 or 20 years ago. It's something that every firefighter has to get done annually. It's to see if your mask will seal on your face. So it's about a 10-minute test, and it's basically making sure that you cannot inhale the bad stuff, the smoke, with your mask on. It's got to fit properly, and this machine tests for that. And it was an NFPA requirement about 15, I'm not sure, about just say 15 to 20 years ago. And the machine was failing, and everybody in the county has been relying on us to do it. And the county commissioner stepped up last night and purchased us one, and it's on order. Yeah, that was good news.
Very good news.
Yeah. Any questions on anything?
Is there anything else in your equipment list that you could stage as being failed the next time you do it?
Yeah, we were fortunate. It was just ironic, you know. It was,
Oh, the hook and ladder truck.
Maybe Bill needs to come and try on,
some bunker gear.
Or something.
Yes.
Whatever you do.
Drive a truck.
Yeah.
Ladder truck, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, thanks for that. Public Works put his report in. He's not available. Anybody have any questions on the report? Or you can get a hold of him at any time, of course. Anything you need to highlight, John? It's pretty straightforward.
We're definitely in our transition season from a Public Works perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news is we only had the one freeze up this year, and it was on the wastewater system, but impacted a dozen or two residents with grinder pumps. So we went through about a week and a half of pretty intense overtime monitoring grinder stations, pumping them out manually, that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
it's behind us.
really took over. They did an awesome job.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, thanks. Planning. I see Jason's already on. He's ready.
Yeah, good evening. Once again, congratulations to NTN for the pavilion project along with the NMU construction group there. That's kind of a legacy project out there, and it was a fun project to work on. The Planning Commission meeting is next week, the 23rd. They're going to have a public hearing for a proposed golf simulator and retail component of that building at 420 Brickyard. So that property was rezoned last year and sold, and now the developer is looking to put in the golf simulator development there. So if the public hearing is required because the property is abutting residential land use and residential zoning. So there'll be a public hearing, and if it's approved, then the site plan review would come immediately after that. Let's see. Can't read my own handwriting here. Oh, we're also looking to schedule a short-term rental at 2182 Waldo Street for Mr. Thomas Fountain. And we'll have hopefully a master plan update. There was our consultant team, one of our team members there had some medical issues, so that our master plan's been delayed by about a month or so. And then we received an update for Attorney Zappa regarding the renovatory PUD. So I think we'll propose that those minor amendments to the Planning Commission to determine whether or not there's substantial changes that would need or require the PUD to go back through the review process. And in reviewing it, I don't believe there are. It was just a changing the number of qualified houses for the certain price point. So contextually, in the site plan itself, it doesn't really change anything. It just changes the those number of buildings that would be qualifiable at a certain price point. So I think we'll move through that. Oh no!
He's wearing his pants today.
That was a mighty cough.
Want to make sure we were awake. Jason, too, just so the board knows, we just received that document from Renovari last night, so they aren't aware of that yet. Attorney Zappa saw it, and he got it to you. I saw his iteration of, excuse me, the difference in the two documents, because they didn't keep it redlined. I was gonna take it today and put the two documents side by side and check it, but Roger took care of that and had his comments. So all I was gonna mention to the board tonight is that we have it, and we haven't really reviewed it yet. But some of his comments were, and you could speak for yourself, of course, that because they're changing the iteration of the types of units, that might address something with the PUD approval, and that's why you were mentioning it.
Not Renovari.
Yep, yeah, just want to make sure the planning commission's comfortable with the changes, and that it wouldn't require a complete review process again, because that would be detrimental, obviously, to their timeline. But it does also provide for a reduced TIF year length, which is a positive. But yeah, we'll let the board, you guys sort that out when you get a chance. We'll have the planning commission take a look at it, and then we'll report back to you guys, if that's okay.
Yep.
Private poultry or chickens in the urban residential district has been brought up by the planning commission. So I'm not sure if it'll make the next agenda, this agenda coming up on the 23rd, but probably the next one. We're going to take a look at the existing urban zoning provisions in the surrounding townships and probably the city too, and provide somewhat of a grade sheet or something to share with the planning commission to see what their temperature is on maybe allowing chickens in urban residential or not allowing them. But the idea was brought up with regard to food affordability and the like, so we'll take a look at that and provide that information from staff to the planning commission. We've received demo permits from the Jasmine restaurant on the north side of, former Jasmine restaurant on the north side of US 41, all the way over to the former Queen City Burger. So that basically comprises that whole plaza. And the intended reuse of that site is going to be a modern kind of subscription type long tunnel car wash with about 20 to 24 vacuuming stations and whatnot. So they might have more than one building on that site, one use on that site, but for now I know that that's what's being proposed initially. And then I guess residentially, we approved a new single-family residential dwelling in the heritage silos. So those, I think most of the properties are sold, and now houses are starting to be developed in there. So that is on Langford Drive. Other than that, typical day-to-day answering questions for real estate agents and permitting decks and fences, and yeah, things are starting to pop now. So we're pretty busy, which is a good thing. So any questions from myself? Otherwise, that's pretty much the gist of my report.
Do you want to talk about the blight ordinance a little bit?
Yeah, well, you guys approved the blight ordinance. That hit the newspaper on the 11th, so there's a 30-day ticker on that as far as the public notice of the adoption. So staff will be putting together a job description for that position, and then hopefully get something hired out here towards the end of the month, early May, and get some presence out in the community and get that going. So we are actively doing property maintenance, but it's just more helpful to have that limited term employee that will kind of stick with it, go out on a regular basis, follow up and do all that. Not that we don't, but it's just easier to have that one dedicated person during the summertime months. So we're looking forward to that, and we appreciate the board's support on this position.
Good deal. Any questions, John?
I just want to make one thing clear on the Renovare discussion. What we received last night, if anyone's confused or curious, was their counter on the purchase agreement, along with a brief explanation of their recalculated TIF proposal, which has not been presented officially yet, other than in an email. So it was received yesterday, too late to worry about tonight, but we have 3 weeks before the next meeting. We'll make sure you have something then, the first meeting in May.
Hey, John, do you want us to hold off then from the planning commission agenda just until the board actually gets a chance to review it and make some comments?
I think it's okay to share with them an update, but beyond that, I don't know that there's much more for them to consider yet. In fact, it's entirely possible, based on the builder they have, that the actual building design, the individual units could potentially change. That is probably a totally different conversation, so let's wait and see what they come back to us with.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
So,
I figured Roger would talk a little bit about it too in his report.
Well, that was just received yesterday afternoon, and actually, my report is even less exciting than some months. But as Manager Kangas indicated, it's strictly a response to our heavily modified purchase agreement. Recall, they submitted a purchase agreement. We sent them a red line version that had more red than black on it, I think, and they are responding to that. They've accepted most of our proposed revisions. One huge one that they are not accepting is, we had proposed that there be a closing date. We relented to their September 10 closing date, or September 1st closing date, but they are not willing to sign a binding purchase agreement unless they have the ability to bail out of it if the TIF is not approved or if other aspects of their financing are not approved. And that's different than what the board presented to Renovare. However, I would hasten to add that that's a fairly common contingency that is in almost every purchase agreement that you'll see for either commercial or residential purposes, is that the closing moves forward if the purchaser can secure the financing that's satisfactory to the purchaser. Now, granted, in this case, that financing is a little different than you have in a typical commercial or residential transaction, because here some of that financing is coming in the form of a tax incremental financing plan that directly impacts the township. Let me also hasten to add that we have not seen what that's going to look like. However, they're projecting at this point that instead of a 24 or 30-year TIF plan, by reallocating the number that are assigned to workforce housing units, that it could be as low as a 10-year TIF plan. Again, this is strictly in an email format with limited cryptic information, and we're going to need to see exactly what they're proposing, but that's what came late yesterday afternoon. So you might have a dramatically shorter TIF plan to consider, and it's still up to the board to accept that, to reject that, but that needs to come. Now, the question that I advanced to the zoning administrator last evening was, we need to take a look at, we don't have this information either, but do those revisions that would change the number of workforce units affect or impact the planned unit development plan that the Planning Commission approved? And I've not been involved in the approval of the PUD in this instance, so I don't know the answer to that. and that was Jason's homework project. Because if they are going to change the footprints of the buildings, make them 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom units instead of 2-bedroom units, or make less units total or more units total, that will change the nature of the PUD plan that was approved by the Planning Commission. Your zoning ordinance, Article 13, addresses minor changes and major changes to the approved PUD plan. Your zoning administrator has the authority to approve minor changes. For example, let me give you an extremely minor change. If they were proposing on the sides that abut commercial properties to put a different type of buffer zone, to plant cedar trees instead of oak trees, that would be truly a minor change. Or to make the appearance of the fencing, but putting the fencing in the same place, another minor change. We don't know how this proposed change is going to impact the PUD. So we just have to be critically alert to whatever comes through to make sure, from a legal perspective, that the approval process, if it is a major change, goes through the correct channels, because only the Planning Commission can approve major changes, and that means that it essentially has to go back to square one with the public hearings and so forth. Again, these are all unknowns. I am certain that before your next meeting, Renovari will be advancing more materials and information to the township, but those are questions in advance that will need to be addressed.
Go ahead, John.
If I may just interrupt real briefly, the long and short of what they're proposing is they don't intend to purchase the property if their financing doesn't come through. So they're not looking at a buy and flip as an option. It's either the financing comes through and we close on the deal, or we agree that they will walk away and we proceed to our next option as far as selling the property.
Other things that briefly crossed my desk, I reviewed and approved the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority's amendments that you looked at the last meeting. The assistant treasurer has had some perplexing questions on delinquent personal property tax issues, one of which is very old, has been around for a long time, and I didn't know anything about it, and I've given some advice on what to do with that. The Lions Field agreement that we had and was never complied with, that's kind of in limbo right now in terms of whether that will be staying in place or whether there will be a termination of that agreement. As everybody is aware, the batting cage never appeared. And there's been discussion that it's not going to be used by the Softball Association this summer anyway, so we just need to figure out the logistics. And I've been corresponding with Lenny on a series of issues, that being one of them. We've got an intriguing question on the water source over in Legacy Hills that I'll be meeting with Lenny on also in the next couple of days to just strategize on a little bit, because we do have a couple of different options there. And you've got the 2 tax tribunal matters that were filed in 2024, and we were approached by, it's the same group that is representing both the Visions North property and the Cedarville Townhouse properties, and they inquired whether we would voluntarily stipulate to an extension of the time for submitting valuation disclosures, and that's a common courtesy that's routinely granted, so we did that. And I think on the blight ordinance, of course, you approved that at the last meeting, and as Jason indicated, there is a 30-day period before that becomes effective, but it'll become effective at an ideal time almost, because all the snow will uncover what needs to be enforced. So you'll have a fresh ordinance. as you'll recall, I think I've been complaining about that ordinance and the language for about 20 years, literally. So this replaces your old ordinance that was repealed, and it should be much more expedient and effective from an enforcement standpoint in the event that citations are necessary. It'll have some better mechanisms to address that. Hopefully. You can't envision everything that could come up, but we tried.
Yeah, I think that-
And I may be overlooking something, but that's at least the bulk of the things that ran past
His
my
boring
desk.
month.
Linda, did you have a question?
Nope, I'll just wait.
Okay. Any questions for Roger? Okay, thank you, sir. Community linkage, the Renovare purchase agreement was one of the things I was going to share with you, so you'll be hearing more on that as that unfolds. And I was going to tell you about the county giving the township that piece of equipment, which is great. We worked that out today on how we get that check. They also had about 6 items on the agenda for the airport last night at the county meeting. And Andrew is retiring. I might have told you that a couple weeks ago. She had lots of well wishes from the commission and staff last night for all the years that she's worked with the Land Bank Authority and the Brownfield and all the financing, and she worked with the Road Commission, and she's got a lot of history there. So the Township Board of Review looked at 119 different issues, and we got those done, and I got the minutes done today, and they went out, and we're official on that. We're going to be starting our AMAR review shortly for assessing, and I should know that acronym, and I don't. Maybe the superintendent can help. He's the acronym king.
Not that one.
I'd have to think about it. Anyway, it's the way the assessing department functions, and I believe all of the information that the state requires has been sent. I put all my information together, the assessor put hers together, and she did send me some documents today saying that everything was accepted. So this is a 5-year process. That, on the good side, we're 100% and nobody bothers us, and on the bad side, the state takes the tax roll. So we expect to be on the 100% side. Elsie's worked very hard, and so is Janelle, and I'm trying to make sure all that stuff's ready. And just as a reminder, there's a couple of electronics recycling opportunities for everybody in the county. We got one just the other day, got one from our secretary. And it's here somewhere. Oh, I got it. Sands Township has one Saturday, this Saturday coming up, from 10 to 2. So you can bring your computers and your laptops and your mice and your cords and your phones and all of that small things. No charge. Drop it off. They got a grant for that, and as long as the money holds out, they'll keep offering this. If you have something like those big screen TVs or something, they're $5. I think computers and everything, the bigger items are $5. And then in town here, Wednesdays from 12 to 4, so it looks like it's every month, Eagle has an e-waste collection on 519 North Lakeshore Boulevard. I'm trying to think where that might be. I should have looked it up on the map. Somewhere out by 906's building, maybe, an adventure team. I'm not positive, but 519, Wednesdays 12 to 4. There's a $5 requested donation per drop-off. So it costs a little bit more to do something individually there, but then you can save the gas going out, and it's more convenient if it's every Wednesday. So I just wanted to let you know about that. The solid waste meeting this afternoon, I didn't get the first half hour because Zoom was down apparently. When I came in, they were pretty much through the agenda, and then I had to leave early because of this meeting and get ready. But they still want to buy, $1.5 million or $1.25 million piece of equipment, and they haven't really had any conversations or done bids or anything, so I was texting one of the supervisors in the meeting and saying, I'm gonna submit my questions, and then they did agree that they were going to table it and bring it back for the next discussion. Because they do have a lot of debt that they've just incurred, and I'm concerned about that and a few other issues, but that's all I had on that. Anybody hearing anything from the public, any issues? I know you said Blight last time, so we're working on that. That was a biggie.
Never heard anything else.
Okay.
Hiding.
Nothing else? Okay. Let's move to the fire department, inspection reports online. Anything you want to add?
Nothing really to add. No, it's pretty basic, something we've been looking at for about a year, and the price is definitely right. And I did send you the proposal. I need a signature, and I think we're good to go, as long as the board concurs.
Any questions on that agreement?
I'll make the motion that we enter that agreement.
Support.
Anything, any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for waiting through all that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, this will be interesting. Consider additional enforcement of unleashed dogs on township properties. John, I'm giving
I
this
thought we
one
were
to
done
you.
with this subject.
Never.
I unfortunately agree it probably will be never, and a lot of it is the public's impression that they had a board-authorized activity out there that's now being taken away. And we've had this discussion multiple times. I'm glad the NMU students stayed. I called Maddie boss lady when she came in, and I meant that with the utmost respect. And the reason why, everyone yells at the boss, right? Maddie, unfortunately, is the one that was taking the brunt of some pretty unhappy dog walkers out there. And it's very unfortunate. But understandably, they have some great passion for walking their dogs off leash, where they have been doing it relatively unimpeded for 20 years. It's been tolerated. We've talked about this over and over again. And now we have a significant liability that we've attempted to address by putting the signs up. Per state law, dogs must be on a leash. And there's some out there that specifically intend to not comply. I had one of them address me. They may have witnessed part of the conversation when we were out there last week for the final inspection of the pavilion. Let's just say I was called a name I hadn't been called since middle school. It was surprising. And this person said, I hope I'm the first person arrested. This is what we're dealing with. It's acts of civil disobedience because we're taking their perceived rights away. And you need to be aware of this before you consider what the next step should be, because it may lead to a room full of the people that are saying this is not fair, when it truly is what needs to happen. And again, I think you all know this isn't me saying this has to happen, it's you agreeing with the recommendation I've made in the past, and that's first put the signs up, which our legal counsel has agreed with, and now asking our sheriff's deputies to take the next step beyond the kind warnings that are not being heeded and actually issuing citations. And the issuance of those citations would be per state law, not local ordinance. The state law governs in this case. Even if our ordinance isn't as strict, it probably should be, but let's follow the state law, issue those citations, and get the message across. And it's really for everyone's safety. I can tell you a lot of the dogs out there are very mild. They're not going to harm anybody. They're very friendly. You can walk up to them, you can pet them. They'd lick your face all day if you'd let them. But it only takes one. And those dogs do show up once in a while with their owners, and they're off leash. They'll bite. They'll go after the mild dogs, And a lot of these dog owners are going to have a hard time protecting their dogs if their dog is out of sight, out of reach, out of their control. Even with a shock collar, you can't control your dog if your dog is out of reach. With an attached collar, you holding one end, the other on the dog, you can at least pull yourself towards the dog or the dog towards you. And I'll be fair, I'm not a dog owner. I'm not opposed to dogs. I really do think we need to protect all users of the property. So my recommendation is to authorize the Sheriff's Department to take that next step, to let people know that we're not just doing this as an exercise or to waste money. We're doing it to protect the users of the property, and it needs to happen. You all received an email from me about the runner that had a dog nipping and biting at his hand and arm. That was the third instance of that runner being chased by unleashed dogs on the same run one evening. It's clearly issuing warnings is doing no good. So, if you support my recommendation, I will inform Lieutenant Gill at the Sheriff's Department as soon as I get back to my computer that we're authorizing the next step, but that's up to you. If issuing citations doesn't work due to the civil disobedience activity, then you have to consider, do you allow dogs at all, right?
Then we have
Yeah,
I
we'd
think,
have a full room reset.
I'm in support of this. There's a lot of places I can't go because of bad situations with dogs. And I know there's a lot of groups involved around the county, and nobody seems to really be doing anything about it. And so I think if we take action, I think it'll help everybody else. Or it'll move those dog owners to those other areas. But I think we need to at least be responsible stewards of our area. So I'll make that motion. We'll close the room.
I'll support it. Because I've been hearing all of the stories. Too scary. You were jumped at, I was jumped at with a woman who had the shock collar around her neck and the controller in her pocket, and the dog came running at me. He didn't hurt me, but she didn't have him under control. He was huge. He could have jumped on me. I wasn't necessarily scared, but it's, you know, what if I were a child, or what if I was scared of dogs, or it's just too scary to. And what if the gentleman who was being nipped at swung at the dog and then hurt the dog, you know, or, I mean, there's so many scenarios that could happen. It isn't just protecting the runner or the walker, it's protecting people's dogs too, so they aren't hurt or run over or who knows what, you know.
I'm most worried about the mild dogs, what's going to happen when one that's really out of control
Sure.
gets let loose. That's my biggest concern. And humans are just as vulnerable, no matter what we're doing. One wrong dog spoils it for everybody.
So would it be a good idea, we've added the signs stipulating the state law, or I should say we enhanced them, because we did have something up there. Would
We
need
added
to-
multiple copies of the same sign that you cannot miss from where the people park.
Right. So,
And they'll walk right past them with their dog off leash.
no, but I'm wondering if, to protect ourselves, and I know you probably have to go, Roger, do we need to now amend them again and say you will be ticketed, or whatever that language would have to be?
I would actually suggest we call TV6 and have them come and do an interview, and maybe with somebody more than just me, but I'm glad to do it by myself, that's okay. They probably need to hear multiple perspectives of why this needs to happen. I'm a trail user, so that's going to be the first argument against me. This isn't just an argument for trail users. This is for all users of the property, including the dog walkers that comply. So we just need to nip it in the bud.
So this isn't a new problem, okay? This problem has been going on for years in this community. People take their animals and they get them off leash and they run all over. They jump on people, they jump on other dogs. We've had it happen at Sugarloaf, and someone or some animal is going to get hurt. Drastically
It's
hurt.
happened.
So we
It's
need,
happened.
if we need to be the first one, then we need to be the first one.
It's like no one else seems to be taking any action. And I
Can-
think getting the signs up was a good first step, but it doesn't do anything, so let's move forward.
Can I real quickly rehash the whole discussion about the dog that was unfortunately run over? That's part of the reason why Maddie was getting yelled at. They were being blamed for the dog getting run over. And as you all know, that dog did not survive. It was a very unfortunate accident. Some of the blame was put on the driver of the vehicle when that driver of the vehicle had already stopped for the owner to regain control of the dog. When the driver took off again, the dog chased and ended up under the vehicle. Unleashed dog. That was the owner's fault, not the dog's fault. The dog did what dogs do, they chase. If the owner had that dog on a leash, the driver of that vehicle wouldn't be living with that on his conscience. And it was not these college kids. It was an employee of the township who's been doing their job out there for a decade. The same activity that that road was built for, to tend our well house, to provide water to half of the township. That was the reason the road was built, why the property was purchased by the township, for access to our well system. Not for an off-leash dog park. And if it's an off-leash dog park, it's not properly contained. Those dogs go wherever they want when they're off-leash. Almost into fresh concrete.
So we don't have our handprints, but we've got paw. Little levity.
Okay, so I don't need to overemphasize that any more than I already have. I just really think if we don't go to the next step, this is never going to end.
The city Monday did say that they are looking at property that they own that will be a designated park for dogs. So they are taking that first step. And, you know, if somebody wants to come from a distance and drive and be able to walk their dogs, they'll have a place. And it'll be designed that way. So that'll be a plus. John, you had something you wanted?
What's going to be the cost for the citation?
I don't know. I would imagine it's like a lot of these citations where the first instance is $100 or $150, and it probably escalates with each additional offense thereafter, up to including what this dog walker wants, to be arrested so that they can make a scene on public TV.
So would there be any signage indicating that violation of this is going to cost you $100 or $150 for violation of this state law?
Maybe that's who needs to be in on the interview with me, is somebody from the sheriff's department
what I
that can
was
explain the
asking.
consequences.
Yeah, that's why I asked Roger if we need to at least notify, you know, if they walk by the sign, don't read it, you can't help that. But at least-
Signs everywhere. There's signs
Yeah,
blocking all the
it's out
scenery
there,
that nobody reads.
you know? But at least, like John said, let them know. Maybe we can talk with Roger again, or the sheriff, they feel, they know what the laws are too.
I'm quite confident if we give the sheriff's department the green light, they will handle it the way you need to be compliant with the law. And there's going to be feedback that's not friendly. It's already happening just with the threat of it. Being politely warned only upsets them more.
Another question. How frequently is the sheriff's department going to the well road to check?
Well,
It's in their report that they do it, but is it frequent, once a day, once a
it's as time permits. We're not trying to overburden them with off-leash dogs when there's far more important things to be concerned with. But they're doing a pretty good job of hitting it at various times of the day, so they're not just catching the same people over and over again. But they don't cover every shift either. So there's some days where it's only the day shift, some days it's only afternoon shift. So it really depends. I would say they're going out there whenever they have downtime.
Yeah, the infrequencies might be better because it wouldn't look like you were targeting people that went out at noon or 5 o'clock or whatever. And we pay for 2 shifts, so, you know, it's not just 8 to 5 or whatever. What else? Anything else? We've got a motion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next step.
I would also like to apologize to the northern students for not recommending this sooner. It's not to say that they wouldn't have even been berated more than they were.
That's too bad. It's uncalled for. Okay, DDA update. We had a meeting in April.
Yeah, if you want to cover any of the highlights, by all means do. Otherwise, I certainly can what's in my written report.
Well, we have 2 new board members, so that's good, and I actually offered the last seat to a gentleman tonight. Put it in writing, so I haven't heard from him back yet, but that board, all of our committees will be full then, if he takes that spot. And he actually came in and did an interview with me, which I prefer. Sometimes it's on the phone, but he was anxious, so I'm encouraged that he'll be a good participant. Yeah,
I
you
put a
did.
report in the packet. It's not in there.
I don't know.
It was in the online version. But
It's not
I
in
did
there.
bring we also have the chair of the DDA here, if he'd like to summarize things real quickly, but,
It's not in here.
And I'll just introduce myself. I'm one of the members, Katie. So, nice to meet you.
Great, thanks for coming, Katie. I wasn't sure if you were part of the northern contingent, or good to see you.
let me just go through the agenda real quick. There were some updates, including an update on Renovari. Every time this Renovari name shows up on an agenda, at least one news agency shows up without even bothering to ask why it's there. It was just a simple update of what you had heard and they had been here for a week prior. So anyway, that's fine if they want to spend their time doing that. Jacob Eddy Veteran Homes, obviously anyone that's been up Venture, they've cleared their site. They're getting ready to realign Venture Drive so that they can properly use their entire site to the extent they want to. Our Commerce and Wright Street Pathway Connector project, that is projected for a July MDOT letting. And it drives people like our chair crazy because it seems like this one's been going on for 5 years or longer. That's the way things go in government, right? As soon as you apply some grant money, you add all these strings and it takes forever to get through the process. And with an MDOT letting, you have to follow their schedule and you have to go through all of their plan requirements before you even can get to the letting. We haven't had a grade inspection yet, and that's just a technical term, one of the steps in the process. So MDOT letting in July, hopefully, which means if the right contractor gets the job, it could be done this year or maybe not until next year. It's the way it goes. The DDA is going to be sending letters out to property owners for a couple of efforts. The first one is the landscaping along the US 41 corridor, which has always been a priority of the township and the DDA, and that's to request the property owners maintain the landscaping all the way to the edge of the pavement, not ignoring the strip between the new pathway and the maintenance strip or the back of curb, however you want to look at it. There's some interesting grading and topography in there that makes it very difficult for the township to maintain that with our equipment. It's a pretty arduous task, whereas if each property owner did in front of their own property, it would probably be manageable. We're hoping they'll heed that request and keep things looking as nicely as they can without getting into the median. The second one is for a proposed Cox Farm Trail. If anyone knows what the Cox Farm is, that's primarily the property owned by former trustee Dave Wiegand. But the trail would be on the back side of the commercial properties that front on the south side of US 41 between Commerce Drive and Brookton Road down by Pet Motors. We don't know where it would exit on either end at this point, and there's a lot of hurdles that we'd have to clear in order to get to a successful project. And if there's any grant funding involved, it would require a permanent easement. That might kill the project right off the bat. Otherwise, you're talking a long-term millage to generate enough revenue to build this all on our own. So, I guess the last one that we probably should talk about is one of Rob's pet projects. Rob is, of course, the chair of the DDA, the street name signs. That was in the news, if anyone's been paying attention, and I think we're going to propose this be a township-wide effort, not just a DDA effort. Even if the DDA has to pay for their signs, the signs in their district, it would be to make things uniform, consistent, easier to read, and up to the current standards. So proper retroreflectivity, letter size, adding block numbers at the intersection so you know which 100 block you're on, and just create consistency throughout the township. We've been kind of piecemealing it on a $1,200 a year budget that we spend probably every other year, and the years in between we just use the inventory we already have in stock. The problem is when you do $1,200 a year, the signs that you buy this year are going to be completely different than the ones you bought last year or 2 years ago because it's a different supplier. They don't match. So, and we also have signs that have never been replaced, so they're aging. And of course, standards have changed. So I think it's a relatively affordable project. I think the roads committee would probably support this project if they still existed. In fact, one former member of the roads committee has expressed that to our staff. And I really think with the road budget that we put together for our local network, we could fund this project relatively easily, maybe even this year, if we can find a way to put it all together with a bid package. Call it a $10,000 to $15,000 budget.
I think it would be best to come out of something like marijuana funds or something rather than township money, but that's the way I would.
It's a road.
It's a road.
It's a road element. We have a road budget that's not fully allocated this year.
Yeah, but okay. Well, we can talk about
I think there's higher priorities for marijuana revenue personally.
The playground.
Priorities for roads.
Okay, but we don't have every
No.
dollar allocated for this year's road funding.
Right.
And we still have road signs that we never have
And we
used.
can save that
So we
argument
can
for
use
another
that.
day. I wanted to plant that seed since the DDA is trying to spearhead that conversation.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll just argue about the funding.
All I can do is recommend. It's up to you to accept or reject.
Any questions for John? Okay. Any public comment? Anything you want to share? Now that we've hashed out about everything. Any announcements from the board?
I have a couple things then. So at the Planning Commission meeting, for those of you who are interested, we did get an overview of what that golf simulator building is like. And so I'll just kind of share that because sometimes we like to see that. We also received the road improvements that will be happening in our community this year. And I'm sure it's online, but you might want to avert going to Escanaba on 41 for a little bit. That was on the news, but some of us don't watch the news ever, okay? So don't go that way. Go through Gwynn. And there's some other things. Yeah. The other thing is the backyard chickens. I just want people to really know that today in urban residential, which is Trowbridge Park, they are not allowed. So not allowed. That doesn't mean that after the planning commission looks at all the information, we have a public hearing, that they won't be allowed in the future. But we have many people, and I had 2 calls in one day, who thought they were gonna buy chickens and put them in the backyard. And I said, I don't think so, call the township. Okay, so it is not allowed, okay? Really, I don't know about Big Bay Highway, okay, because they're not urban residential, they probably can have chickens. I also, like Lynn, did get something in the mail about recycling, so the 2025 UPCO appliance recycling is starting in May. So those of you who have appliances to recycle, you might have to be an UPCO user, but it will be in Sands Township on Monday, May 19th from 10 to 5. That's important. We don't want refrigerators in our trails. Okay, so bring them to the right place, right? And we get them, don't we? We do, yeah. So, thank you.
What are we doing about mattresses then? And tires?
They're
Sorry.
They're going to your house. They're going with the chickens, John.
I'm behind the building now. We got a big building there.
Yeah, really.
Anything else? Any other announcements? Okay, manager, report.
I'm going to try to keep this brief because we've talked about a lot of things already tonight. I just have one more item that you should at least be aware of. Supervisor Durant, myself, and Superintendent Bodinas attended a meeting, virtual meeting this week with Raftellus. You may recall they are the consultant that did the water treatment plant valuation for us when we went to make our offer to the city, which has been accepted, and we've been authorized to negotiate the terms of what that agreement looks like so that we can close on the purchase to the tune of, let's call it 2.3 to 2.5 million, right? For that 16% share, which equates to X million gallons or whatever. You don't need to know those numbers other than the 16% at this point. It's important that you should know, and unfortunately Attorney Zappa had to leave, but part of what Raftellus is working on is the nuts and bolts of what that agreement looks like. So they'll put together all the things that need to be included in the agreement, and then we hand it to Roger to add all the legalese, and then send it to the city for review, and hopefully then the negotiations go quickly. We don't put all the burden on the attorneys up front. And the reason that we really like using Raftellus on this is they have so much experience on both sides of these systems now that we don't have to reinvent the wheel or retrain a consultant to start over.
And they've worked with us and the city, so they know
Correct.
the system.
Yep. So that is progressing. We didn't just put it on the back burner to scramble and try to address in October. We're progressing towards the goal of closing sometime in October. And that's going to coincide pretty well with some of our existing debt retirement.
Any questions for John? Okay, oh gosh, I gotta review the motions. Randy, review the motions, would ya?
There's only one. I think there's only one.
Well, the
Two.
first one would be to approve the consent agenda. And that was approved 5-0. Do you have it? That's fine.
No, go ahead.
5-0 and 2 absent. The second one was to approve the remainder of the agenda. And I guess we didn't really have very many, did we? And then the fire department agreement is the third one. And the township properties enforcement by the sheriff.
Unleash dogs.
Yep. I guess that was it. I lucked out. I don't have anything yet for the next agenda. We are actually finished with our calendar of community members who are coming until August. So we get a little bit of a break. Everybody can check their calendars and figure out when they want to come and see us. But it's always great to know what's going on in the community. Any other comments? Somebody's gonna have to make a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn. Support.
One on each end. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We won't be back till May 7th. We are adjourned. Thank you. 7:29.